Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy to see you because I want to talk your ear off about Xiao, and there's going to be some other videos coming out this week that we're going to be doing that. Well, not this week. Maybe this week. We have to wait until they release their his trailer showcasing his backstory and his moveset exactly and things like that, and kind of the designers being like, hey, this is what he's supposed to do, even though, well, let's not jump the gun. Maybe that we're misreading things, that's always appropriate. But ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be checking out or thinking about what characters will hopefully, probably, maybe meld really well with Xiao. Now, of course, he's not here. There is a website where you can look to see what he is in the beta that they're currently going and doing. So he's going to be hopefully pretty close to that. Or yeah, and even if he's not. But well, even okay, you can kind of predict what he's going to be because they're trying to facilitate him into a slot. If that makes any sense. So we're going to talk about his pros and his cons, but not going over his individual skills, more or less. But I want to talk about, again, who would complement Xiao really well. I really like the whole way this looks, so it's to break my heart that we're going to have to get out of it. But let's jump into his characters. Okay, so for those guys who do not know, let's go cover it all the way from the very bottom to the top. Xiao is an Anemo user, and Anemo is a really weird element. It's basically it's the opposite, it's the twin, with a completely different personality to its brother, Xiao. Long story short, Xiao and Anemo are both support kind of abilities, not just an element. So they alley-oop and support other elements. So of course, if you have Xiao, I'm sure you guys know how that works. Whatever element interacts with Xiao creates a crystal, which therefore gives you a shield that is resistant to that element. Cool. And Anemo does something a little different. It is basically a plague. It spreads whatever element is imbued with it, making it like wind, sprinkling across kind of a generous AoE. So, with that being said, that's how Anemo works. Anemo doesn't really massively amplify damage unless you have the Venisser, the Anemo's artifact set. But Xiao, speculation-wise, probably won't feed off of that, so it's not the best set to go with. Maybe the one piece Anemo bonus damage could be good, but not its whenever you activate a swirl with an element, it increases the damage of that element onto the enemy now. But it doesn't work for Anemo. So it will imbue the element with more of fire, but not of Anemo, even though they combine together. So it doesn't work that way. And Xiao is going to be doing a boatload of Anemo damage. So again, if you don't know anything about Xiao, he's an Anemo user, but the main thing that you're going to be wanting to try to get to with Xiao is to his ultimate. Now, I do think he's going to, if the leak stats are to be believed, he is going to hit really hard, regardless of how you play him. He has the highest base attack scaling in the entire game, but he's not like a Diluc who has really good attack scaling and is fire, which fire is already probably one of the best elements, if not the best element in the game. So instead, Xiao has Anemo. So even though he has the highest base attack, it doesn't mean he'll have the highest base end-tier damage because his element doesn't really amplify damage as much as you might think. Not the same as fire, at least. Fire and melt and, the whole combo. But that doesn't mean he's weak. In fact, I think that's why Mihoyo is trying to be like, no. If you want to play this like Wind God or Wind Archon, you're going to be able to hit hard all the same, but we're going to have to change the way you play him and make him very selfish. So for those guys who do not know, Xiao basically does normal damage with his spear. Pretty cool attack combination. But when you activate his ult, every single drop of damage that he outputs becomes Anemo related. His charge attack, his basic attack, and his lunge attack all get amplified with Anemo. So every single time he melees, he's going to be just spewing out this beautiful blue and green particle. Awesome. But also weird. He's not like a Razor who scales incredibly high with physical damage. He scales, this is all speculation, but he scales way more with his Anemo damage. And there's not too many routes where you can amplify Anemo damage besides the one piece, your goblet, and that's it. But what does come into buffing up your Anemo maybe a little bit is by increasing his attack percentage and attack on his character. I think that will massively increase his Anemo damage and everything else, because attack kind of scales up most other things. if it's not just specifically like physical damage, which Razor gets a massive gain from. And that's also maybe like the nullification of Xiao, is that when you fight an animal person, you're probably going to be doing a little less or a lot less than what you might do otherwise. Anyways, so with that being said, his E does not give you too many particles. Particles are the thing that helps you get your ult back faster. Like we already mentioned, Xiao is going to be in his ult constantly, or hoping to be in his ult constantly. That's where we're going to be able to do the most damage with him, but there are some drawbacks. One of the things that you're losing health. So what I'm trying to do right now, guys, I'm trying to unveil Xiao to you without talking about his exact stats, but also explain his positives and his weaknesses, and what seem to be the thing that you're going to want to work towards, and the thing that you're going to want to fix. So one of the things, like I mentioned, when Xiao activates his ult, he's going to have a bunch of buffs. His attack is going to be, it's just going to fly through the roof, as well as it's going to be animo damage, which is kind of the nerfing thing of it. If they ever release a character that's immune to animo damage, then that buffed thing is going to be nonsense. It doesn't mean how much damage you're doing when the character's immune to animo, he's immune to animo. Anyways, but when you're in your ult form with that skyrocketed damage, all of your melee attacks are going to be doing animo, and you have increased jump height by a lot, which means you can jump and then death from above whenever you want. The one negative is that he starts to devour himself, or maybe it's better worded as his mask tries to devour himself. So he'll take damage over time. So if you're planning on, again, to me, and this could be proven wrong, I'm totally open to that, but it seems like how you want to play Xiao is to constantly be in your ults. Now, if you do want to play Xiao that way, how best to achieve that goal? Because we have the negatives of you're dying constantly when you're in his ult, and we have the positives of when you're in your ult, you're profiting on every front except for your health. So how do you stay in your ult and heal? Well, there's some characters that come to mind. Very, very obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Venti. Now, if you were not lucky enough to get Venti, then Sucrose is a fantastic consolation prize. Sucrose, it's kind of funny, it's like a meme at this point, but Sucrose mains do exist, and they're lovely, and actually, it's pretty damn viable. So yes, if you do happen to possess Sucrose, she can be quite the alley-ooping character, as well as she does increase your elemental mastery in a big way, especially if you have her built for elemental mastery. But I will say that it does seem like elemental mastery doesn't really scale well with a lot of so if we go ahead over here and we go to details, we go to elemental mastery. Elemental mastery increases melt and vaporize a little bit, but it massively increases overload, superconduct, electric charge, shatter, and a swirl. But the swirl, it's weird, because how that works is it's capped. So for melt and vaporize, there's like pretty much no ceiling. It's just insane damage. But for overload, a superconduct, and all these other ones, it's a little bit less. It's capped. It's almost like you have to keep investing heavily into it in order for you to benefit. But that doesn't mean that that's not good. I don't think elemental mastery is going to be a bad stat to roll on Xiao. But also the way elemental mastery work is kind of complicated. The reason why Sucrose is so good is because she gives the person that is detonating the elemental reaction a huge amount of elemental mastery, which is how that works. Elemental mastery, having a high elemental mastery with a character that doesn't detonate the combo, is bad. At least that's what I've heard. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how the algorithm works. So that is why Sucrose can be actually really, really good in just about every kind of team comp, is that Sucrose actually allows another person to buff up their elemental mastery so they get the benefits of that, even if they don't have that invested. So that's why Sucrose is fantastic. Now you guys may be like, well, Grin, are you bummed that you don't have Sucrose? You're talking up Sucrose a lot. I'm talking up Sucrose because there's a lot of Sucrose mains out there, and they'll rip your fucking throat out. Secondly, I mean, it makes sense. Look at her. She's adorable. Adorable. Anyways, okay, Sucrose, great. Alright, cool. Venti. Also, before we go to Venti, Jean. Jean is also solid. Jean heals your ass, which is good, but not... It's not good. Honestly, it's not good. Well, it can be good, I would say. But to me, I would say, we'll get to the healers later. Let's just talk about her animo ability. She's good in the sense that she regenerates a ton of animo particles for you pretty consistently. She also has some utility, and she also can be a DPS, which is kind of where I'm starting to it's a little weird. It's a little weird because she kind of steps on Xiao's toes a little bit. She's towering over him. He's a little tiny little tiny guy, but she kind of steps on his toes because she does demand to be out in the field a little bit, but she does have good support capabilities as well. I think if you have Constellation for anyone in her zone, it's a lot. It's like some of it's like they'll get weakened to animo damage. They'll also move faster. They'll also take more damage from some sources. I think I don't have Jean, so I can only speculate. But I've seen some stuff with her, and she's not a bad pick. Again, if you have Jean, good. My only thing is that the clear problem that we're trying to fix with Xiao right now is how do we constantly accrued animo particles, because that's huge. Because Xiao has 2 charges, 3 at the most of his dash, and they don't give you that many particles. And the second thing is that when you're in your alt form for Xiao, at least the gameplay that we've seen as of late, we do not see Xiao regenerate particles while he's in his alt form and dashing. You don't regenerate any sort of animo particles like that. So to have an animo character with you to basically be your energy bunny while Xiao can just unleash himself constantly is what we're looking for here. So that's why Sucrose really, I think, is first to second. It's yet to be seen. And I want to talk about why I think it's a debate. Because Sucrose very much seems awesome. She's buffing up elemental mastery if you have her built right, and that's just going to increase your swirling damage and all that stuff. But Venti, why do I think Venti is going to be pretty goddamn fantastic? Well, our boy Venti, best boy Venti, to me there's an issue with Venti. Venti always has this problem where Venti basically pulls enemies into the air, and a lot of people will tell you that, like, oh, I can hit him if I'm melee based. No, you can't. You can't hit them. It's like a 50-50 odds of you using Venti's alt, and then the character's getting just like pulled up above you, and you're like, God damn it, shit. And sometimes they're anchored lower, and you're able to hit them. But let me tell you, I'm a proud Venti main for such a long time. It does not happen that much. It's like once in a blue moon, where the enemies are actually a little lower, so you can actually hit them. So that is Venti's issue. And I might be like asking, well, why would you want a couple of melee person with Venti if that's the case? Wouldn't you go with a Nin Wang with Constellation 1? That way you can deal splash damage. That's a great option too. Thank you so much, person in my head. But anyways, the one thing that Xiao does on a passive, which is really cool, is all of his animo, when he activates his alt, he infects himself with animo. But he also gets massive animo AoE damage. Which is huge. Now, even if that doesn't, maybe you need to contact with an enemy in order for it to proc the AoE. Okay, let's say that happens. One of the things that Xiao can do is jump and death from above. When you activate your ult, you're able to jump in the air and death from above. And when you jump in the air and do a death from above, you get massive AoE damage. So, to me, this fixes the problem with Venti. Not only that, but certain characters have a limiter on how much animo they can actually, or an element that they can be applied with. So that's why if you're running like a lot of electro characters and you're like, why am I not like getting electro procs constant? Like Venti's swirl hits every second. Well, it's because characters have a time limit on how many elemental effects they can be under, which is kind of shit. Wish that wasn't a thing, but it is. So with Xiao there, I feel like you'll be able to reapply elements maybe faster because I think they're coming from different sources. But that's me just thinking. I don't know if that's actually gonna happen. But another thing, and this is the biggest thing, I don't know about Sucrose, I don't know about Jean, but I think there are very few characters that can even get close to stepping on Venti's toes when it comes to elemental regeneration. Venti is the poster boy for having a shit ton of alt all the time. Every single swirl that you activate with Venti, let me actually put him on my party. Every single time you activate your swirl, which is in a huge radius, so which means if you hit multiple people, that's multiple people tossed up in the air not hitting you. But not only that, but every single time you impact enemies with that, you get 3 particles. And it's on a 5-second cooldown. And most people have Venti built for like a decent amount of elemental energy recovery anyway. So yes, the fact that you can pop this out every 5 seconds, boom, 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 is huge, like massive. And it also, it has the byproduct of making Venti be able to heal constantly. Regenerate his energy constantly. But not only that, he's regenerating his CC ability, his alt, which is this Y ability, which is huge, pulls enemies in, does a shit ton of damage, looks like a bunch of blades being slashed in that giant zone, this black hole. Yes. that's going to be amazing for Xiao in terms of just locking down enemies, because one of the things I think Xiao is going to have an issue with is, which was what every melee enemy has an issue with, is enemies running away from you, and you have to run here and run there, and maybe it's not a good idea to use your dash, because the way his kit works, if we're getting into the nitty gritty, is like you need to, when you dash, you get a damage buff when you're in your alt form or something like that. Maybe it's not when you're in your alt form, but every time you dash, there's a timer that goes off that gives you an amplified buff, and every single time you dash, it gets reset. So you don't want to dash, you want to dash, maybe wait 5 seconds, 7 seconds, dash again. But that's getting into like weird min-maxy nonsense. We'll talk about that when we're going over his actual skills when his trailer's out. But anyways, so yeah, to me, I think there's no better candidate for partnering with Xiao. This could be proven absolutely wrong, but not only that, there is a benefit to actually having multiple characters in your the same element. I will say Animo one is, I wish they would buff it because it kind of seems a little shit, but the elemental resonance for 2 Animo characters, you guys can see it. Impetus wins. Decreases stamina consumption by 15. That's going to be pretty huge. It allows us to dodge and keep moving, especially in Spiral Abyss, but also it seems like both of these characters are pretty squishy. Xiao being a little bit more tanky than, of course, Venti. But anyways, increased movement speed by 10. Awesome, fantastic. So we actually move a lot quicker. I'm going to be able to make it so get to point A to point B faster. But also this shortens cooldown CD by 5. I think shortened skill cooldown is actually your elemental cooldown, which is just even more better for constantly having Xiao's alt active. Awesome. And again, to me, just the synergy of Venti's whirlwind, like pulling in enemies, and then you just smashing the ground with Xiao. So yes, so those are my 2 teams. This very same way that I have my build that I'm currently running that I think is only going to get better in 1.3 because there's a lot of geo buffs happening, which is this build right here, which I'm running Zhongli and Albedo, which are 2 they're 2 Geo characters, so they get the massive buff from being in the same team. They get this rock one, which is only going to get better, enduring rock. Yeah, I'm not even going to read it because it's just going to get way better in the future. But anyway, so let's make this my build. All right, so Razor is going to be a placeholder for Xiao because they both kind of play in the same way. You want to make sure you get your ult as soon as you possibly can and smash the world. Awesome. Also, you can't really do much outside of your ult. Also, I should have mentioned that one of the limiting factors of Xiao is the idea that he's very much like Razor, where when you activate your ult, you get massive profit. But if you switch off of him, then you're getting less profit because it will cancel his ult and it's on a huge cooldown and you didn't get to use any of the benefit from his ult. So the idea is that you're going to want to activate his ult and stay in his ult form until it's done, until its duration is ended. That's the bread and butter of Xiao and how that seemingly plays. But like I just said, my character of choice would be Venti. The Animo Traveler is weird because he has a glitch in his system right now where whenever you do his E and you dodge right after using it, you don't get any elemental particles, but just don't dodge. But a lot of times you want to dodge because an enemy is going to be hitting you. A heavy, like a non-staggerable enemy will just smash you, so you want to quickly use his E and then dodge, but that will mean you don't get any animal particles, which is not good. So he's also the animal, just the weird Animal Traveler is just like significantly less. If you look at stats on paper, I'm sure you can make him work, but he just, yeah, it's just real, it's commendable to make that work. But anyways, regardless, yes, Venti will be my first, so these two will have 2 animal characters will be playing off of each other. Now, I didn't mention this, but what is Xiao's other problem? Xiao he needs his ult, basically. He needs his ult to profit, so you're going to need to couple him, or you're going to need a way for him to get his ult back. If you want to spec all for his, for elemental regen, sure, you can get elemental regen and you'll get his ult that way, but you're losing on a lot of like crit chance, attack buff, animo damage buff, all these things that will make him a heavier hitter and a main DPS. So I'm not sure if you want to spend your points and your artifacts in that way. Maybe he doesn't need that much DPS because he's already going to be hitting like a tank. Don't know. Maybe. Anyways. But Xiao has one more problem. How the hell are you going to repair his health? Because say we're playing in a game, I'm going to be using Venti's Swirl, pulling enemies in, then I'm going to immediately switch over to Xiao, do death from above until they drop, and then just shred anything that's left, which probably won't be much. Well, we'll get into it. Anyways, if I do that once, twice, and 3 times, Xiao is probably going to be near death, because every single time you activate his ult, his HP by 30% is going to start decreasing, up to 30%, sorry. So he's going to be getting smashed, and even if you're like perfectly healed, but that's also a thing. He's losing health, which means he's weaker, and he needs to regenerate his health. So to me, there are three characters that do this spectacularly. So first, let's attach the first problem, not the weakness, but instead the healing. How are we going to repair our boy, our Animo second best boy? I still think Venti is best boy, but anyways, don't come for me. Maybe I'll change my mind because his playstyle will be so fun. I don't know. Venti's just good people, though. Venti's just like a nice soul. Anyway, of course, I am biased in this way, but I think a fantastic like person for Xiao, healer-wise, is going to be, of course, Chi-Chi. For those guys who do not know how Chi-Chi works, well, first of all, she scales off of attack percentage, which is weird. So when you're building her up, you're going to be inadvertently increasing her abilities' damage as well as their efficiency when it comes to healing. So this is one of her first abilities, or this is her E ability, which basically you summon forth this yin and yang orb that will constantly heal you based on her attack. Not only that, but if Chi-Chi does melee attacks whilst this is active, she will regenerate the health of her entire party. But the healing passively is just kind of enough. Now this is one way of healing. Then there's this. Her ult is this giant ice brigade, like just huge AoE zone of ice, and it applies a talisman onto every enemy, and any enemy with this talisman on them that gets attacked will heal the attacker. So if we're playing Xiao as our main character, any enemy who has this talisman on them, Xiao hits them once, he's maxed health. Hits him once, he's maxed health. And also, this is healing him. Like, this is going to be constantly healing him. And not only does this heal him, but this spins around and smashes enemies in the face, dealing a pretty decent amount of cryo damage. Nothing crazy, but enough to be interesting. Now, she has one more thing when you fully level her up, but every single time you melee with Chi-Chi, there's a chance for you to put one sigil onto an enemy every 30 seconds. It's on a 30-second timer. So this is huge. Even if you're on, like, you have no cool, like, you're completely tapped out with Chi-Chi, you have no bells and whistles in her kit, you can quickly melee a couple times with Chi-Chi until the sigil is applied, and then you switch to your main DPS and just shred with that, and you'll get tons of health back in no time. So that's just pretty damn huge in terms of the synergy with Chi-Chi. Now, with that being said, Chi-Chi has a really big problem in the fact that she does too much of one thing. And there's characters in the game that don't do too much of one thing. So, let's talk about these two characters. So, to me, I don't think Chi-Chi is the best for Xiao. Although I have her, and I have her built, and will use her. She is not the best character. I don't think that will go with Xiao. The reason why is because there's an initial problem that is happening with Animo, which is Animo is useless unless it's coupled with another thing. So you need another element to make it better. Now, Chi-Chi does ice, but she predominantly does a silly amount of healing, almost to the point where there's diminishing returns. Like, you don't need 12,000 HP with one sword attack that happens every 10 seconds. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Now, also, the reason why I think Chi-Chi is good is because she is going to constantly be flowing HP into Xiao. Whereas a Bennett might be still good, but I don't know. The problem with Bennett is that Xiao looks like he hits fast, hard, and he pushes enemies away from him. Makes sense, he's wind-based, but this is going to push enemies away from you, not allowing you to actually, he's not going to be able to be healed. Now, if you have Bennett maxed out build, you can stand in his aura for 2 seconds and you're max HP and you hit one thing and you get his ult back. Yes, it's fine. You're fine. You probably don't need it. I do think it's a little annoying to have to activate Bennett's ult, and I'll feel like I need to stay in Bennett's ult in order to make use of it. But yeah, I don't know. Bennett's not a bad option, but I think any character that can sustain healing whilst you're running around freely, just like running around, dashing, getting distance, hitting an enemy like that, I think that's going to be huge, and Bennett has that weird problem. Same thing with Jean, which they put down this AoE healing zone, and I feel this with playing Razor, but Razor constantly pushes enemies back and he staggers them, but he'll push them out of the fucking zone. So you have to do this weird, like, jujitsu nonsense where you're, like, teleporting behind them and pushing them forward again. It's like, shit. Anyways, So yeah, Bennett can work if you have Bennett fully built, but I think it'll be a little, in the back of your mind, you'll be like, stay in the zone, and you'll keep pushing them out, which is why I think a Chi-Chi works really well, but I do think there is one character that is going to couple with him perfectly, because Xiao is going to be outputting a metric fuck ton of Animo, and especially if you combine him with a Sucrose, with a Gene, with a Venti, who is going to be adding, like, charging him up, you're going to need something that detonates Animo. And Chi-Chi doesn't do that really well. This little ball that constantly applies cryo fires whenever it feels like it. It's really undependable to apply cryo when you need it, and it doesn't do it in a massive radius. Now, who's a character that can heal your fucking brains out and also applies a ton of status and also gives you healing? First of all, the fact that a character exists that has all three of those is kind of fucked. Anyways, it's our boy, Water Boy. I don't remember his name. Xingqiu. Eat shit. I remembered it. I'll forget it immediately. This dude wearing boy shorts is going to be the person that's going to take you to the highest heights. I guarantee it. I fucking guarantee it. Okay? Now, with that being said, if you don't have him built and you don't have a sacrificial sword that resets his E, which is on a pretty long cooldown, then it could be less good, and Chi-Chi could kind of get a little bit closer. Maybe. Probably still not, because this character is going to buff the shit out of Xiao's base damage, because that's what he does. He'll just give the ability for you to constantly spew out swords, which is fucking stupid. What? That's amazing, but also why? Also, he'll increase his resistance, which will fix one of Xiao's problems, which is, yes, you're able to repair your health, but what happens when what do you call it? When you're like, you have no health and you're weak, and like maybe an enemy hits you twice and now your mask is eating you, and you don't, maybe your characters are on cooldown, and now you're kind of just like, fuck, I need a way to keep my character safe, not even just repaired, but protected. And this character, I think, I don't have him, but if I'm not mistaken, some of his kit. Oh, can I look at his kit? Oh, I can't look at his kit. I didn't know I could do that. I'm sorry. Yes, so whenever his E basically gives you a layer of defense. Not only does it apply a Hydro, but it gives you this layer of defense. So whenever an enemy hits you, it'll hit his swords, which is amazing. So it increases character resistance, which is great. The only negative is that it does apply the wet status to you constantly. So if there's any sort of ice enemy, you're going to get like locked down and frozen. So yes, you activate your E, you get a ton of resistance. Awesome. That's one of the problems that Xiao has. Like I mentioned, protection and repairing him is the main thing. But anyways, then there's this. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but it's his alt. This is fucking silly. Your active character's normal attack, which is what we're going to be doing a lot with Xiao, triggers consistent sword rain attack damage, dealing hydro damage, constantly applying a hydro element to your swirl. So you're going to be hitting an enemy with swirl damage, you're going to be detonating with hydro. Swirl, detonate, swirl, detonate. So you can build him, how you build his character typically is with healing, cryo damage, or hydro damage, and I think it's regeneration. So you want a sword that regenerates your elements and all that stuff. That way, whenever you activate one of his E's, he'll basically have his ult back always, which sounds fantastic. But also this, when Rain Sword is shattered, or when it expires, it regenerates the current character's percentage to 6. So I don't know how many, I think it's like 4, or however many Rain Swords are active. I don't know how many it is, but say it's like 5. That percentage is happening for each one of those swords, which is going to massively heal your character if it breaks. If anything like that happens, good. In fact, I think if you have this character, you're opened up to like a whole horizon. So now you can pick any other passive support, like official, like maybe a Bido if you have her built for, well, probably not her, because you need to wait for her, unless you have her built her for like a ton of regeneration, like yeah, maybe that. You can throw in an Albedo, whatever you want. But for me, I'm of course going Chi-Chi, so we should complete our thing. So yes, I'm running Xiao, Venti as recharge, as well as just everything that Venti does is fantastic. I'm running Chi-Chi as my healer, and also a way to constantly apply cryo, which means it'll get swirled and it'll make enemies slower, which is kind of just a nice consolation prize. Again, I still think Water Boy Xingqiu is just gonna be nuts for Xiao, because it fixes both of his problems of being weak but also repairing his health. And yeah, now Chi-Chi will repair every one of my character's health, so it's way more of a blanketed safety net, but I don't think you need that much of a safety net. You'll be okay. But for me, outside of that, there is this one problem that he has, that Xingqiu does patch with his E, making him a lot more resistant, and also it applies an element. So The one thing though is protection. Has the opening still deal damage, and he can take a few hits. Because again, if you happen to misplay things, you're gonna want an extra barrier of safety. Not only that, but there are very, very, very few things in this game that actually reduce animo resistance, which will mean Xiao will hit harder. What are those things? A lot of them are in constellation behind 5-star characters, which sucks. So 5-star characters, if you get max constellation for Venti, or it's like 3rd constellation within his kit, I don't know what it is, but basically reduces animo damage whenever you imply them with a swirl or something weird like that. Regardless, cool, but who the fuck's gonna get 30 constellations of a 5-star? Unless you're a fucking whale, who cares? Good for you. But I'm not better, you're better. Anyways, the one thing that does do that, in 1.3, Zhongli will get a buff where whenever he is shielded, an enemy will take 20% more physical damage, which is amazing because Xiao hits physical damage. He has one of the highest base attack percentages in the game, and say if you're not using your ult, and you're shielded with him, this is good. You're going to be getting that 20% buff to a physical attack or whatever. Great. But Xiao's shield also weakens them to elemental attacks, resistances. So he'll decrease elemental resistance and physical damage, which is what Xiao both kind of does. When he activates his ult, he goes purely elemental, but say if you want to play him outside of that, you just pop Zhongli's shield on him, you're going to be getting that much more of a damage buff out of it, so that works really, really well. So yeah, Zhongli is like speculated to be also a fantastic support to come. So yeah, and I just lucked out because Zhongli's actually, I built him for like weird support. So yeah, this is going to be my team basically that I think would be okay. If I could interchange anything, I might change Chi-Chi with Waterboy, Xiao, and then I would change, I'd probably put Fischl here, because that way there'd just be constant detonation, but there'd also be a way for Xiao to heal, and then I would just try to dodge with Xiao, but also with the amount of CC and crowd control, most enemies don't have enough time to attack, and if they do, Xiao would just save them, or save him and heal him, and yeah, I think I would probably maybe choose Zhongli over like a Fischl, maybe. Although Fischl, when you have her maxed out, she has that ability to where whenever you cause like an elemental effect onto an enemy, so when you mix elements and swirl and electricity would count, it will attack with Fischl's base attack, so that could really synergize and give you even more damage. Yeah, basically, I just can't wait. This has been one of those characters where, like, to me, the synergies with shit could be really fun. Like, I think with Fischl, I actually could get pretty fun, especially with. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That could be fucking so fun. Yeah, Fischl and Waterboy would be so fun. Yes, you're not getting like Zhongli's protection and like his damage and like his ult and all that stuff. But if you had Waterboy in place of this, if you had Waterboy, also by the way, Barbara makes a good healer too. I'm not sure if she's the best for him because you kind of need to switch to her, heal him, and she would be just something, another step for you to do after you're done using him, which you're already just going to be trying to use Venti to get back his ult. Anyways, but let's use, say if I had Xiao here. Xiao would be constantly applying water damage. Fischl would constantly be having Oz out, applying electricity. And of course, Xiao and Venti would just be maximizing both of those effects. And then with Fischl's passive talent, which is the ability for Fischl to, whenever you cause an electrical elemental reaction with any other element, it hits a lightning strike for her base attack. Not only that, but it would be water plus electricity, chain detonates constantly. And then Animo swirls any of those elements, applying it to every other character. And Xiao constantly does swirl damage. So I feel like that could be also a fun build. Unfortunately, I don't have Waterboy, but he's going to be the character that I'm buying, or not buying, he's going to be the character that I'm getting with the free characters in Leeway, because he just seems like so good, even if you don't have anything built for him. 0 constellation, he's still fucking godly. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be my team. Well, not that team. I don't think I can build that team. Maybe after, but my initial team is going to be Xiao, Venti, Chi-Chi for healing Xiao, and also applying an element, and then of course Zhongli, who's going to debuff everybody around him, allowing him to hit harder and just go nuts. And yeah, that'd be what it do. That'd be what it do. That's what I'm doing. That'd be my build for Xiao. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts. But yes, those are the builds that I think would synergize really well. If you happen to be one of those characters that have a Sucrose, have a Xingqiu, have a Fischl, all built, then I think that could be a really, really good team. I know not a lot of people have Venti, which is why I think Sucrose could just be just as good. The only thing is that the Sucrose just CCs people. Venti sucks people into a black hole, which will mean Xiao's Death from Above, this like jump attack, has massive AoE, and I think it even has more AoE with Xiao. So that'll be able to affect Venti Swirl as well as just every enemy around you, and yeah, I think that would just be really good. But I cannot wait, especially when you think of elemental synergies. Razor don't really, yeah. Razor don't, yeah. Honestly, I could slot in that same team with Xingqiu and Fischl, and Zhongli for protection. I think that'd be pretty good in terms of just making sure Razor can just constantly keep applying, especially because Razor applies so much electrical damage. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know nothing about nothing. I'm just shooting this shit, talking with you guys. Hopefully, you guys let me know what your plans and grouping for the characters are gonna be. Maybe I was off with a bunch of stuff. I just kind of shot the shit with you guys and just tried to figure it out. But yeah, that's what I'm excited for. That's my team for Xiao. I cannot wait to go into his actual skills, his percentages, and just gushing about those with you guys. Even though he could be shit when he comes out. I don't think he'll be, but maybe he is. I'll still have fun talking to you guys about him. So. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, hopefully you guys do enjoy the rest of your day. Subscribe buttons to my right. Thank you once again, and goodbye.